Welcome to Even Just a Little, where we explore the beautiful gift of choice, tiny trusts toward big freedom, those moment to moment decisions we make that build life. Welcome to this episode of Even Just a Little, where we explore life through the lens of the gift of beautiful choice and how choice creates our lives moment by moment, day by day, month by month, and before you know it, you're living the life that you've made through choice. And today I don't have an adjective to describe how honored and grateful I am to have Sandra Vanatko with me. She is my mentor. She is my friend. I bumped into Sandra about 12 or 13 years ago at her um, yoga and meditation studio, which is located in Weatherford, Texas. Indra's Grace Yoga and Meditation Studio. It's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful place. World-class yoga. I studied yin yoga up at a place called Kripala, that if you're a yogi, you know that word. And Indra's Grace is just as beautiful a gift to the world. So if you're interested in yoga, this is definitely the podcast to listen to, but also Indra's Grace offers online classes. And Sandra also does retreats around the world, sharing the beautiful gift of body, mind, and soul. And with the last few years, really leaning into meditation. So I hope we get a chance to go there and share with you today the value, why these things matter. And with all of that description, I think the greatest gift that Sandra's given me is learning to see the person that you're sitting across from, because she really saw in me something I wasn't able to see in myself when I first started classes with her. She gave me the opportunity to teach and gave me my voice back. And now here I am. We're on a podcast together 12 years later. So thank you, Sandra, from the bottom of my heart for the many ways you've touched my life. But get ready, everybody, because you bump into Sandra and your life changes. So welcome, Sandra. So glad to see you this morning.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here. It's an honor to get to do this, and I love that you have one of your beautiful paintings right behind you too. That's always calming to me, the colors that you always weave in. So it's an honor and a pleasure to be here this morning.
Thank you, Sandra. Thank you. Well, can you tell us a little bit? Let's start with how you got here. Tell us a little bit about your journey, how you've discovered yoga, and then we'll just take it from there. Tell us a little bit about your background.
Yeah. I, just to quickly summarize, I did everything that my parents had said to do to be happy. I'd gone to college, I got a good job, I was making good money in sales, and I had done everything they had said that you should do to be happy, and I was miserable. I was actually really sad and struggling with a lot of depression and anxiety. And so I started to question, it was kind of this skeptic woke up, but was like, hang on, I've done everything I was taught to do. I've done it by the rule book and I'm not happy. And I think because I'd done it by the rule book that I'd been given and I wasn't happy, I started really thinking about like, well, how do I figure out how to be happy? And to me, even at that early age, happiness, contentment was success for me. And I was living in Austin. I had a lot of friends getting married, having children, buying homes, and I had no interest in that. That just wasn't a goal for me. I wanted to yeah, find equanimity and contentment. And so I put everything in storage. I started looking at all these like, places in the world where people don't have anything, but their smiles are the most genuine. And I saw that, I had everything and I wasn't happy at everything. I was probably 25 and making about 150,000 a year back then in sales already. And I was interested in what drove happiness, since some of these places I wanted to go see had so little, but there was so much richness. And so at the age of 29, I put everything in storage and I bought a one-way ticket. And I was going to actually go to Africa first, but the way it worked out, I went to India first. And then that was where I actually found yoga philosophy first. I actually found an ashram and got into learning philosophy before I even did any practice. Yeah, and fell in love with it. And right before I'd gone to India, I had gone to visit a friend in California. And that friend, when they found out I was going to India, they said, "You need to meet my dad's best friend. He's a yoga teacher and he's going to tell you where to go to India." And and so I spent the afternoon with him, just asking a lot of questions about my upcoming trip. And the last thing he said to me when I was leaving, he said, "Maybe you'll come study with me someday."
Mm.
And, and I was leaving in about a week. All my energy was in that. But long story short, the longer I was in India, I eventually reached out to him on some questions I had. And he with so much clarity was able to answer and support me that I ended up flying back home after almost a year in India, packing my bags and moving to California to study with him for an apprentice with him for about 3 years. And it was life changing. It was life changing. It was life giving. Um, and I knew I had found like my calling. It was just, it was just like a knowing.
So you began studying yoga with him at that point.
Formally. So I was already
Formally. Okay.
studying in India,
Okay. Gotcha. Okay.
but I would say my really formal studies started in 2007 with him. And he was from Kerala, India, and he was teaching a real classical style of Shivananda yoga. So that's where my roots started. And yeah, um, after almost 3 years, I came back to Texas. And he sent me home to Texas to open my own studio.
And that was 15 years ago, correct? Because Indra's Grace has been open
15 and
for
a half
over
years. We'll be
15 years. Yeah,
open 16 years in January.
wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. So, so that's how you landed with yoga as a really such an enormous piece of your life. Why do you continue? What keeps you staying with the teachings of yoga? And then I hope we can dive into some of the ones that you feel are the most valuable, especially to those who haven't ever touched on yoga.
Yeah. It's passion. Like, I mean, it as an artist, you open yourself to the art to come through.
Mhm.
And this is my passion, and I open myself to the experience of like of the practice. And I am definitely a student first,
Mhm.
and teaching is a part of my path. It deepens my experience of being a student of yoga. Um, why this long? I mean, because it's been an incredible adventure. Um,
Mhm.
it's a journey. It allows me to keep going more and more into the unknown. I don't know where fully it's taking me, but I continue to be a more authentic version of myself. It's like we're peeling back layers. There's a lot of unlearning that's
Yes.
happening, a lot of deconditioning that happens, so that
Let's
we
go
can
with
really experience like our
Let's go with
true
that a little bit,
selves.
Sandra. Go
Yeah.
with that a little bit because
Yeah.
I that has been my experience in the years of yoga, just peeling away the
Yeah.
years. The can you explain what you mean about that? And maybe a couple of little practical things on how people could begin to to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it was already happening when I challenged the belief system that was in my family on what you do to become happy. So I followed these beliefs and I didn't get the outcome that I was told. And instead of trying harder, I was like, maybe the belief system is incorrect. And so it was like, what and it's a lot of contemplation and reflection and feeling into what is true. And it's like, oh, okay, my father valued financial success at the top. And when I felt into my experience, I did not. I felt success to be joy and contentment,
Mhm.
peace. And so how could our why was different, right? So then there was the unlearning of what had been conditioned, and then the feeling into like, what do I believe? What do I know to be true? So that is an enormous part of the practice. And I mean, it starts on our mats. We're practicing, and you might notice a way that you speak to yourself while you're practicing yoga. You might notice that you're hard on yourself or very critical of yourself or others, or you push too hard, or you give up when you could push a little more. So we start to examine our own experience. We start to examine and notice our own direct experience. And from noticing our own direct experience and knowing it is where choice starts to be
Yeah.
there. There's no choice if there's no awareness.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. There's no choice if there's no awareness. So this makes perfect sense to me because I've been on a journey, a similar journey. But for
Mhm.
someone who is just stepping onto a yoga mat, why does stepping onto a yoga mat, how is that helpful? If say I'm walking into Indra's Grace into one of your classes for the very first time, why does it matter? And
Sure.
what are the little things that happen in a yoga class? Because I think people have such preconceived ideas about what yoga is,
Hmm.
and they're vast because there are so many different kinds of yoga. But why why is a true genuine practice of yoga, why does it matter? And how does it begin to change things when I walk into that class?
When a beginner comes in, um, I like to give them an experience where they leave and they're like, there I am. And I know you know what I'm
Mhm.
talking about. They're more relaxed, less stressed. They've softened something that was really bothering them. All of a sudden, maybe it's just a non-issue. Um, our sight can get so narrow, and after one class, oftentimes it just opens again. We're like, but when a beginner comes in, and I like to just help them feel better physically. And they might go home that night and notice they're more relaxed. They're more patient with their spouse. They might sleep better. They might notice that they have less aches and pains. And and this sparks a curiosity for most people. They're like, wow, what is this? And they're like, huh, I'd like to do this again. And I these are little I love it because they're like little cookies. You get a cookie and you do it again and you again, you feel a little less stressed, you sleep better, your body has less aches and pains, its mobility starts to improve, you get stronger. So typically beginners will feel the physical benefits first.
Yes.
And then they start to notice that there's mental benefits because it's a more subtle realm. Usually people, the aches and pains are loud. So they like our attention is focused there. And as we practice and we'll notice that many of those minimize through regular practice. And they might also start to notice that um, they're more patient, less reactive, um, staying more calm during chaos. So they're starting to see more mental and emotional benefits to it too. And it's like the practice penetrates. It goes from the outer layer to the inner layers. And what's beautiful is usually as people practice consistently, they will want more because they see the benefit. There's there's no having to like try to talk anybody into yoga if they try it consistently because they see the benefit themselves.
Yes, that's absolutely. I mean, when you're hurting and you experience some relief from that hurting, it
Hmm.
gets you to the second class, and then you
Yeah,
feel better.
yeah.
And those are the layers that just continue to peel away. I mean, I'm sure there will always be things as long as I'm living that are still in my body that I have to learn from. Now I know it's actually a little clue that's telling me this needs a little attention, notice, and stay there. So the body that when I did my first teacher training with you, you really dive into what are called the asanas, the physical pieces, which I think that's what most people when they think of yoga, that's what they think of.
Hmm.
So why do those matter? And then I want to get into the breathing practices because that's what really changed my life, the
Sure.
breathing practices. But
Yeah.
but the benefits of a physical practice, and I'll have to say, one thing that made me recognize the heart of Indra's Grace, Sandra's yoga studio, every class I went to, the teachers would say, go home and try to do a little of this on your own. Try to begin a home practice because that's when you will see your body, your lives really change. And to me, that did two things. That said, okay, this is not just a business trying to make a lot of money because they're encouraging me to do this not just with them, but
Mhm.
also that is when life changes. When this becomes, I mean, it begins changing the minute you step onto a yoga mat in a class, but the more you practice, the more you benefit from this. So let's go with the asanas first, the physical
Sure.
postures, because there are many, many yoga classes out there that offer this aspect of yoga. So
Mhm.
why, why, what's the point? What's the point in a physical yoga practice?
Sure. Yeah, and if I just may say too, is when you take the practice home and you start doing it at home, it becomes yours. And that was always the goal to help students have their own practice and it becomes embodied.
Yes.
It becomes embodied. So instead of following someone, you now know it and you do it from the inside out instead of like mirroring something.
Yes,
And
and yes.
so that was really important
And
to share. But for
learning
the
to
pot,
listen
yes.
to
To
hear,
how does our body want to move today?
learning to
Yeah.
listen and noticing it that it matters, because
Yes.
that's a huge concept there, a choice to listen to your body and learn that your body's trying to help you. So go ahead.
And that the movements you did yesterday might not be appropriate today. Sun salutations may not be appropriate every day, depending on your stress level, how much you slept, how the body's feeling, what movements it did the day before. If there was a lot of stress, you might need a practice that's supporting the parasympathetic tone more. So, but the postures are incredibly important. However, I want to say that they're only mentioned in the yoga text once. Yoga was much more about being awake, wakeful, conscious living. But to get there, it's through the body. And
Love
and so
that.
it starts through the physical body. And so we start with postures and it's more important today than ever before because we are so sedentary.
Yeah.
And I say this in classes, all the time. It's silly, but I really mean it, is that our yoga practice actually, we release our issues through our tissues.
Yes. And if we're
So
not moving, where there's no releasing.
yeah, so if you're not practicing yoga, you're doing pretty much the same repetitive movements daily. And there's so many different places and pockets in the body that tension and stress can get stored. I mean, physically, I think it was Carolyn Myers that said that, like, eventually our biography, the story we tell ourselves, shows up in our biology. Like, think of a car mechanic that, like, he can hear the sound of the car, and know what the issue is with the car. And a good yoga teacher over time will see the body, see how it moves, and know and feel already the emotional, mental issues. They'll know the biography that's showing up in the biology because there's patterns. And so the movement today, because so many people are sedentary and they have jobs that they sit for 8 hours a day. Maybe they drive to work each way 1 hour. Um, we don't have a way to move the energy. And energy is meant to be moving through these bodies. I have a saying that's like, don't be the garbage can for stress. Like, don't be the end point for stress. You need to keep moving it through. And there is stress in life. And we want to learn to work with it and work with these bodies to allow it to flow through us and not to just get stuck. And a lot of the rigidity, the tightness, the constriction we feel in our bodies is um, it's related to our mind and emotions.
Mhm.
Like right now, if we were all to just like think of somebody or something that just brings us great joy, can you feel how you're softening? There's immediacy to it. There's
Yes.
immediacy of that softening.
Yes.
Now think of like rush hour traffic or a busy airport, uncomfortable, stressful holiday. It's like, can you feel it where there's like,
Tension,
there's
tense.
immediately, and it can be subtle to great.
Mhm.
So depending, and so then there's no physical yoga. Like you can't separate physical yoga from mental yoga or yoga from meditation because what we think influences the physical structure. How we feel emotionally affects the physical structure. So then if we start moving the body in certain ways, we can also influence the mental and emotional aspects of
Yes.
who we are too. So
Yeah.
like it's a two-way street. So why the physical part? Because we can move the body and we can support positive shifts in mental emotional state
Yes. So it's
and
so,
support the physical body obviously as well to feel
yes.
better. Yeah.
Well, and I think that's if I had my life to do over again, start yoga when you're young, because I've
Mm-hmm.
spent so much time peeling, because I spent so many years of living like this. And I
Mm-hmm.
recognize, which a lot of us do, live in our heads. We don't even tap into the body. We stay
Mm-hmm.
in this thought, think, do. And maybe that's a good place to lead us into the breath work, because breath work, first of all, the practice on the mat, the movement of the body, definitely years of that before I did teacher training and began to learn about the gift of the breath, and how I think it's at that point that I realized also, no, with the physical practice, I learned that just because a thought comes through your mind does not mean it is you have to grab hold of it and stay there and build that tension again. So let's go there first and then get into
Sure.
the breath work. But so choice, and that's what this podcast is about, choice. So
Mm-hmm.
the choice of choosing your thoughts that you become so aware of during this physical practice, during movement of the body, because it brings you to right where you are. But go there a little bit, Sandra. How 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 does choice figure into this? And I think of it as an emotional or a mental choice here, but it's also physical many times. So good luck.
Sure. Yeah. So uh choice needs space. Um
Will you say that again?
yeah, choice needs space. Um Most people are making most choices unconsciously. Most people
Absolutely.
are making most choices based on reactivity.
Hmm.
And this is what in yoga it's called, like it's called karma. We keep doing the same thing over and over again. It's an unconscious pattern. So we I mean it's said that like 90% of our decision making is made from that unconscious, right? And yoga starts to bring light to that. And I'll give an example that I often use. I remember the power of yoga was at a um, family Thanksgiving. My father had gotten remarried, and my stepmother at that time said something really triggering. And in that moment, felt, I felt the anger, like kind of like a volcano coming up. And I could feel I wanted to say something. And then I breathed. I took a deep breath. And I really felt the upsetness. And I also had enough space around it where I could still think through it rationally, like this would not be skillful. The timing, if I said something right now, it wouldn't be helpful. It wouldn't be. And so I was able to just breathe and settle. Where the past, I probably just would have said something. And then I chose to find her later to speak with her aside from everybody so that it didn't bring the whole table at Thanksgiving
Mm,
in.
mm,
And and so that's where I'm saying choice needs space. And our practice starts to create spaciousness enough to start making conscious choices instead of just doing the same thing that you've
mm.
always done. I used to tell my dad would be like, "Oh, you can't, teach an old dog new tricks." And I disagree. Yes, you can. If you're willing. If you're willing.
Absolutely. That's
If you
really
are
what this is
willing.
about. Yes, you
It's a
can.
willingness. Yeah.
It's a willingness to those choices, those tiny little choices create the lives that we were designed for, really. I
And
believe.
and I'll say this too. You are making choices by not making choices.
Yes.
You,
A-
you know what I mean? Because
Absolutely. Yes.
sometimes the choice is not making a choice. And if we were to take time to feel into it, we would be like, I'm having, wow, I'm having a hard time speaking up. And so out of an inability to speak up, that is the choice. We have a choice. We can speak up or not, or we could work with someone to help teach us how to speak up, or we could meet that growing edge. We could learn to get resourced and work that. But by so it's like with awareness, we see that there's always there's choice.
Yes.
And there always is choice. I remember my first teacher telling me that you always have a choice. You're never stuck. He said, look, in any situation, you can either leave it, maybe that's not a possibility. You can try to change it. Maybe that's not a possibility. Or you accept it.
Accepted.
You
And
always have choice.
that's a big piece of this too, because I think sometimes we think, I remember when I initially started facing accepting, honestly, accepting, I was kind of conditioned to think accepting was giving up, but that's not what accepting is at all. Accepting
No,
is a beginning. It shows you where you are on the map. It's just an honesty, I believe.
the
And
reality check.
so reality check and
Reality check.
reality check. And once you start becoming aware of that reality rather than just flying with those thoughts, that unaware way of thinking, then I mean, life really does begin to change. If you continue to choose, look at it as there's a choice here constantly, really, little choices throughout the
all
day.
all
Yeah.
day long. You have an
Yes.
opportunity to be more wakeful
Yeah.
all day,
More alive.
all day long.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Well, Sandra, one little tidbit about, I mean, pranayama, breath work in yoga, breathing, the breath behind the breath. It is life changing. And to me, it is the greatest gift because it's always with you. It's available to every person that's alive. So, can you just give us um, a basic, maybe little, if you were going to, if if you were teaching a beginner yoga class and introducing the breath, what would you tell the class? Let's tell our listeners just something they can take with them in their pocket to use. Maybe even a little teaching if you want to.
Yeah, I mean, I would when I would take time, many moments throughout the day, and I would spend 1 to 3 minutes a few times a day becoming more aware of my breathing.
Oh,
That's it.
simply noticing
Just
your breath.
because most people are, it's an unconscious process for most people. They're not thinking about their breathing. They're not paying attention to their breathing. And the moment you start to pay more attention to your breathing, it becomes a bridge to present. So by default, one becomes more present. And through presence is where we find that deeper nature, which is our spiritual nature. So I always tell students, somebody's like, oh, I'd like to become more spiritual. And it's like, well, what is spirituality? Spirituality is understanding the non-physical aspect of who you are. What's the non-physical aspect of who we are? It's the breath, right? It moves in and out of us. It's animated, but you can't give it to me, right? You can't place it in my hand. And when we really start to just bring awareness to the breath several times a day and just pause, we'll start to recognize this dimension of our being.
Yeah.
And if you go deeply into that, you'll recognize that this dimension of being is not mine, it's not yours, it's actually shared.
Yeah. Such a gift. The breath and um your yoga studio, every class you go into has utilizes the breath as a piece of the practice, which is such a gift. So I highly encourage our listeners to check out Indra's Grace Yoga and Meditation Studio. It is in Weatherford, Texas, if you're close, but it's also um, you also offer streaming classes and lots of workshops and of course your beautiful retreats. Well, we're really out of time. I'm not surprised. I could talk to you for hours. um, I like to close with asking each guest if something comes to mind when I ask the question, what, and you live this. So it'll be very interesting to hear your answer because you live this moment by moment, choice by choice, trust by trust. You live it. But if there was one seemingly small, insignificant choice that you've made in your journey that you feel really impacted the course of your life, what do you think that would be? It seemed insignificant at the time, but something that was a choice because these choices really do determine the directions that our lives go.
I
Uh,
would say follow the niggle.
follow the
Like
what?
I call it a niggle. It's
What's
like
a
a
niggle?
little, it's like, it might be like, go back to school.
Gotcha.
This little like, but like here and there,
Yeah,
just very softly is underneath. And then you might be like, I'm too busy. How can I get to that? But it's, it's the heart.
it's the heart.
And, and, and it is what may open up your whole heart's, soul's path.
That is so true. I mean, I, I, and I remember in my first teacher training, sitting in a circle the first day, and I had this quote on all of my high school art syllabus, to know what you prefer instead of humbly saying amen to what the world tells you you ought to
Mm,
prefer is to keep your
mm,
soul alive.
mm.
Um, um, and that is what you're talking about, I think. But we have to we have to notice it. You have to notice it and then
And
act on
act
it.
on it,
And that's
act
the
on it.
trust. That's the
Yes,
trust that little,
yes.
and so it can, for me, it was taking an art. Well, I mean, it changes throughout your life. It may be to bring more life outside of work into your life. I mean, it can
Right.
be lots of different things depending on the chapter, but oh, I love that, Sandra. Yes. And you called it Listen to the Niggle.
I don't know how else to describe it.
I love it so much. And I love you so much. Thank you. This
Oh, I
was
love you too.
such fun. And I hope that our listeners will check out Indra's Grace
Thank you.
yoga and meditation studio and truly jump in on one of Sandra's retreats. They're all over the world. And really exciting stuff. One of your last endeavors, a meditation course, which maybe we can chat again and talk a little bit about
I'd
the
love to.
why of meditation.
Sure.
Which really the breath and the body are meditation. I mean, but for for someone who hasn't studied or taken a dive into this, it would be
Mhm.
so interesting to give them a little bit of why. But so tell us about your meditation course, and is registration closed for that, or can people still sign
I
up
mean,
for that?
it starts Saturday.
Okay.
It starts this Saturday. We go 20 weeks and it's 6 weekends. And each weekend I lay out a teaching, we practice, and then we build on it. So I find that guided support for meditation makes all the difference because it can be very easy to get lost
Right.
and off
Yes.
track in meditation. Yeah.
And it is wonderful. I did I took part in the maiden voyage last fall,
Hmm.
and it's just another way to just become a little more of who I remember who you are and how to navigate this journey beautifully. So thank you, sweet friend, and
You're
I
very
look
welcome.
forward to seeing you again soon.
You're very welcome. Thank you so much.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Thanks so much for joining us on Even Just a Little.